Hotel Wi-Fi test, take 5. I need to do something about these lights. Better? Okay, it's much better. Turns out these lights are, this light's okay. Maybe, perhaps, perchance. Get rid of one of them. Both of them. That one. This one. I don't know. I could get rid of my face. That'd help. Getting rid of this chair would actually do wonders too. Maybe. No, see, it just screwed everything up. Possibly. All right, we're going to give people a minute. Give this camera a minute. I am drinking my dandelion tea again. It's fantastic. The only thing in the room whiter than I am. Maybe. Perhaps, perchance, hey, slimy guy. I don't know. See, I closed the windows and all of a sudden, maybe. Dandelion tea is fabulous, by the way. There we go. See, it likes darker colors. That's just what it is. I'm too white for my camera. Wait for YouTube to send the all the stuff out. Whoa. Whoops, that's all the lights. It's too many lights. You'll just have to deal with it. The picture in the thumbnail is I am plugging and re-drilling my High Road T. Hey, Clint. It's a it's an overseas High Road Pearl variant. It smells like Caribbean cooler. Yeah, the light's great. My face isn't. See, I'll put this. See, I had to go and adjust it. This chair sucks, though. There we go. I'm gonna lean forward. That'll help. Because this chair will just kind of... My connection's unstable. Go figure that. So this may go in and out. This may bounce all over the place. Once again, I'm on hotel Wi-Fi, so these could always be a little precarious. But... oh, heck, Kier, I shot 300 number 4 on Sunday with a Rubicon UC2 as my second in the past month with it. Sweet. I haven't gotten my UC2 out for a bit. It normally makes the ride, but I haven't gotten it out as much here recently. Some of the smoother stuff has gotten a look. I've kind of rediscovered my RST, and of course the ProMotion gets a lot of use. The IQ Tour Nano Pearl. Stuff like that, and I have started using my Rubicon a little bit more too, so I have not gotten a ton of action on the UC2 recently, but congratulations on that. It's always fun to do. I choked both a 300 and an 800 on Thursday, so that was fun again, and then I had to have the back 4 to shoot 600 in league on Friday. I did figure out what I was doing wrong and fixed it on Saturday, and so I had a pretty good tournament on Saturday. Hope everybody enjoyed the... Actually, I need to plug my computer in. There we go. The computer's battery is not the greatest. I had to unplug it to plug in the coffee maker to make my dandelion tea, so... See, that's it. I'm too white for my camera. I knew it all along. So I got my RST back out and did really well with it in a tournament on Saturday. I could have done better, but every single lane was different, and it's always nice to have good lefties or experienced lefties kind of in the neighborhood of where I'm bowling, so I can kind of watch and see what they're throwing, where they're playing at, how kind of everything's going for them, to kind of use that as a benchmark. Because even though I feel like I'm pretty good at lane play and reading ball reaction and whatever else, both sides of the lane are different. And so generally you're going to see a lot of lefties, if one finds a certain spot somewhere, they're all going to be in about the same place using similar equipment. And if they're not, one's going to score significantly better than the other. So I'm just trying to look for verification that everything's that I'm making the right reads. I am pretty confident in what I'm doing, but sometimes there have been a couple times where I've just been doing absolutely the wrong thing and need to figure it out. But yeah, the RST looked really good on Saturday, and actually the lefty that I was bowling next to, he ended up getting out his RST because mine looked so good. But we were playing basically the same place, doing the same thing, and so I got to that was pretty fun. But every single lane was different. We bowled 6 games, we move a pair each game, and every single lane was different, not just pair to pair. The lanes were different on those pairs, so it was tricky. Hello lovelies. Okay. She got an Axiom Pearl for free. The problem is I got a Trend. What should I do? Those are pretty different balls. The Trend has R2S Pearl, and the Axiom Pearl has NEX Pearl. The formula strengths are quite a bit different. The Trend's longer and flippier, and the Axiom Pearl's earlier and smoother, so there's not much overlap there at all. What's your opinion on urethane versus a short pin layout? I think urethane is so much more controllable than short pins. And short pins, even when you short pin a reactive ball, it still has reactive tendencies. And so it's going to want to go longer, and it's going to want to be more responsive. Again, even when you short pin it, urethane is going to hook through the sludge and then just roll off the end of the pattern. It's not really going to do a whole lot. We kind of got a clinic in urethane usage at the US Open. We talked about that on the Rise and Grinds Saturday afternoon. Some people get up in the afternoon, so we talked about it on Sunday. So we kind of recapped the US Open and talked a lot about the urethane usage. You see Storm Rotor 900 announcing any new releases this month. I know there's not really a need right now, but with everything being as good as it is, but it's been a little while since the last release. I think they had some stuff planned a while ago, but they've been busy catching up with production. The Zen especially has been selling really well, but they're having trouble keeping stuff in production, and so they discontinued quite a few balls and are still a little behind from what I understand. So they're waiting to release the new stuff until they can catch up, basically. It's a really nice problem to have stuff on order, or be selling more stuff than selling stuff faster than you can produce it. But at the same time, if somebody goes to buy something and it's on back order, and then it's not just on back order for a week or two, it's on back order for like a month, then people start to get frustrated, and then it becomes an actual problem and not just a nice problem to have. If you can't get what you want to buy, if they can't, again, it's nice to have the demand, but if you can't keep up with the demand, then you're really just costing yourself money. So, and at this point, when they need to catch up with the demand first before they put anything new out. And I think they were kind of stepping on their own toes there for a bit, where they continued to release stuff while they still had a bunch of other stuff on back order. And so I think that they're trying to right the ship a little bit and fix that before they announce any more stuff. Let's get warm in here. Oh, I am in, I don't want to do that. I am in Colby, Kansas, which is 50 miles east of the Colorado-Kansas state line on I-70, which is kind of the major highway through Kansas, east to west anyway. Out here looking at more bridges, we're looking at what we call the 500 series culverts. They're not long enough to be considered a full bridge, but they're not short enough to where they're just like a drainage pipe or something. They're actual structures that just aren't full bridge length. So looking at a lot of those and doing some what we call scour criticals, which are bridges that have had problems with either they're on easily erodible soil or something like that, where if they get some water coming pretty fast through there, it'll wash out a lot of the support around the columns and foundations and stuff like that. Hey, Matt. So we're doing some of those. Next week we'll be in Garden City, Kansas, which is kind of south of here, a little bit southwest of here. It's in kind of the southwestern part of the state. They have a really good brewery there that we like to go to. So it's a really quiet part of the state. They don't get a whole lot of water out here. So there's actually some cactuses, and we have some road runners out here and some stuff that you might associate with like Arizona, New Mexico, stuff like that. That's quite a bit further north. So it's kind of cool to get out here, especially because there's not a whole lot of, the bridges out here are not very tough. It's kind of a drier climate, so there's less humidity. So when it is warmer outside, it doesn't feel like it's super warm. And plus there's not a whole lot of water out here anyway. So generally speaking, we don't have to try to wade through a bunch of water, and we can cross most of the rivers and creeks or whatever that's under the bridge. So that's kind of helpful for looking at stuff. But so this is kind of a nice relaxing week. The photo in the thumbnail is my high road T that I'm plugging and redrilling. It's an overseas high road pearl, and it was right-handed. And again, being overseas, I've plugged quite a few of my overseas balls to use left-handed because, you know, some of the stuff over here, you know, if I have a phase 2 or something right-handed, or if I have some other stateside stuff right-handed, it doesn't cost a whole lot to replace one of those. So plus they're a whole lot easier to acquire, not to mention cheaper. So I have plugged quite a few of my overseas balls and re-drilled them lefty. I'm a two-hander. Should I drill my high road pearl pin up or pin down on my ball? I'm a bit afraid I won't match up with a pin down one. With a high road pearl, it's already got a high enough RG and a medium-ish differential. So if you look at a lot of the layouts that Belmo uses, I don't think he has any or many high road pearls at all, because you don't need them to go even longer down the lane and be smoother. I just go ahead and drill that one pin up. Now, if you go look at drilling something pin down, we're looking at stuff with a bigger core, like a trend or a phase 2 or something like that. So at some point, can you do another video on how to get lined up on an unknown pattern along with ball selection for that pattern? Yeah, I could do that. I could actually just have the mechanic surprise me with something and see if I can guess it. Actually, that'd be fun. See, I knew it. Yeah, that's a good reason to have a benchmark ball or something that you kind of are very, and a benchmark ball doesn't have to be an IQ Tour. It can be just whatever you're most comfortable with. If you're most comfortable with like a trend or a high road, it doesn't have to be a smooth sanded solid or something like that. It can just be whatever you're most comfortable with. And, you know, just throw that ball first all the time. Whenever you get anywhere, pull that bag out of, or pull that ball out of the bag first, throw that, and then that should tell you which direction you need to go, whether you need sharper or smoother or more hook or less hook. I found out if you eat Doritos, they're bad for you, plus bowling is so much fun. Yeah, bowling's a ton of fun. It's about to get really, really fun, I tell you what. Yeah, junk food generally is bad for you. So, do you see the idle pearl being discontinued anytime soon? Is the synergy similar enough to replace it? The idle pearl has been discontinued for 4 or 5 months. I think it got the axe at the end of 2020. The synergy is definitely not similar enough to replace it. The idle pearl is actually earlier and a bit smoother than the synergy. I think it's actually a bit stronger too. And the synergy is a similar overall shape. It's got that nice idle shape to it. But I think the Axiom Pearl is actually closer to the Idle Pearl because despite having a stronger cover stock, it's got a very similar ball motion to it. It's a little bit stronger than the Idle Pearl, but with as responsive as that cover is, you're not going to notice it that much. I think that the Axiom Pearl is very close to the Idle Pearl. Speed dominant stroker style bowler looking for a heavy oil ball, considering proton, reality, possibly a UFO. There's a lot of people that have been going for the reality because the proton and the UFO were strong enough that they can kind of force you in a little bit and then they get smooth. The reality, I think, is a cleaner. It's the least, it's of the proton, the reality, and the UFO, it's the weakest of those three. It's still very strong, but I think it's a more usable strong. I think it's a lot like something like the original No Rules, where it was strong, but it wasn't like proton UFO strong. But if you're looking for absolute heavy oil, if you're looking for just absolute hook, the proton or the UFO is going to be your choice. And I kind of lean towards the NEX cover. I really like the proton. I do really like the UFO too, but I think the proton is a little bit smoother than the UFO. I think there's some people that disagree with that, and that's fine. But they're both really strong, and if you can't get either of those balls to hook, then you're doing something wrong. Hey, what favorite balls do you like? The ProMotion still. I think it has to be my absolute number one now. And this kind of goes along with the next question. What is your 6-ball arsenal right now? The IQ Tour Solid, the IQ Tornado Pearl, and the ProMotion are an automatic. They're the automatic one bag. They go not even one ball, one bag. It's the bag that goes everywhere, and I kind of build everything else around that. Depending on the house that I'm going to, on Thursday nights, I will take my Synergy, Rubicon, and lately it's been the Phase Grip that I just drilled. And the other house, I will take stuff like an RST X1, the Phase Grip again, and then something like either an Insight or a UC2 or something like that. So it kind of goes back and forth, but right now it's the IQ Tour Solid, Tornado Pearl, ProMotion, and then if I had to pick a 6-ball arsenal to take anywhere kind of to an unknown place, the Synergy would go in there. The Phase Grip would also go in there, and then probably the RSTX1. If I was just going somewhere blind, that would be what I'd. Most counterintuitive concept of the sport, I say it's using surface on short patterns. That's definitely up there. There's a lot of counterintuitive things. People use really strong balls on short patterns too, kind of counting on them to hook early and burn up. It's kind of a urethane concept. So yeah, surface on short patterns, and that's one of those things that's really tough for people to learn or kind of wrap their head around. Any tips for increasing ball speed? I've tried moving backwards, faster, 5 steps. All of the above feels off and drives me off my balance. Anything you do that screws with your timing is going to cause problems. So I would try to avoid screwing with your timing. And the moving backwards and forwards thing, all that really does is um, all that kind of does is change your tempo. It doesn't really change a whole bunch of other stuff. Most of the time when you try to increase ball speed, people also tend to kind of clench up on the ball too. It's one of those things where like if you try to hit a golf ball harder, people will muscle up and get all tense and try to whack it. And generally speaking, the ball, you actually kind of take energy away from the ball when you try to tense up and muscle up or whatever. You actually want to be a little bit more relaxed, or just kind of relax everything, and don't try to throw it hard necessarily. But something you might try doing is holding the ball a little bit higher. If you hold it low, it's not going to, you want to use gravity to your advantage as much as possible. So if you hold the ball a little bit higher, it's going to go a little bit higher in your backswing. And then as long as you don't try to muscle up and throw it, just let gravity do the work. So if you want more speed, just hold it up here and just let it free swing and go for it. I also wouldn't lengthen your steps either, because it's kind of like, if you want to throw a baseball harder, you don't want to throw it while you're in the middle of running or taking long strides. You kind of plant and then you throw. But just try to relax a little bit, raise the ball up a little bit, and just let gravity do the work. Don't try to muscle anything. When do you use your proton physics? Not very often. I don't find the amount of oil very often to use the proton physics. I do really like it, and there's a lot of times I try to use it when I really shouldn't. But next time I go to something longer, heavier, whatever else, it's definitely going to nationals. Nationals is still another couple months off, but that and the RSTX1 are easy balls in the bag for the singles and doubles pattern, especially because on the left side, there's not going to be any transition, and so I don't have to think, okay, well, yes, this might be good for practice and maybe half of the first game, and then it's so strong I'm going to have to throw something else. I'm going to be able to, if it actually looks good, I'm going to be able to throw it the entire day. So, all right, so talking about the topic at hand a little bit, the truth versus your truth. Your truth or my truth or something has been a phrase that's been driving me absolutely insane here recently, because usually whenever somebody says, well, this is my truth, or what's your truth, or something like that, they're people that are trying to create kind of an alternate reality or change the rules of life so that they can more comfortably kind of exist in their own little newly created mental space. And I don't think that's very mentally healthy at all. I think that we all have to figure out how to live in this world, and it does. I'm not just talking random stuff. It applies a lot to bowling. The whole point is there's a bowling tie-in here. So let me grab this real quick. I'm getting a little time with my High Road Max, and I'm really liking the combo of strong cover and weak core. What are your thoughts now that some time has passed? It needs I might try another one. The layout that I chose was not intelligent. I really like the layout, the pin and ring on my Synergy, but the Max core doesn't need, I should have drilled it pin up. I should have just drilled it like I drilled everything else. It does need some lane shine on it. Otherwise, the cover's a little bit too strong for the core. But the layout wasn't very intelligent, and I needed some more lane shine on it. But I think it's pretty good, and I like that NEX cover. I'm starting to use my Axiom a little bit more. I need to take that out and practice some with it. But so what the whole your truth or my truth thing reminds me of in bowling is people that refuse to accept the general way that the game is. People always want to, and it was at the U.S. Open. That's what people are talking about now. And there's a really good post from Dave Wodka out there where he says, "Can we just forget all the arguing and nonsense and just enjoy the game?" If people spank a U.S. Open pattern with urethane, fine, let them do it. They're good bowlers that are figuring out what they need to do to score. That's the name of the game: is stay behind the line, knock the pins down. And the people that kind of refuse to acknowledge that it's them instead of the balls or the pins or the lanes or the approaches or the any other infinite amount of excuses, it reminds me of the my truth people who, whether right or wrong, try to, create their own reality just so it makes them feel better. Now, there's a lot of people that will do that because they are being unfairly persecuted or ridiculed or whatever else. But the problem is that even if you do make yourself feel better, you still have to live in this reality. You can play video games or watch movies or whatever else to escape it for a little bit, but the best way to do it, and this is something I personally experienced a million times over, is, reality is reality, and the sooner you figure that out, and the sooner you figure out how to not only exist but succeed in this reality, no matter what kind of shortcomings or drawbacks or challenges you have, it's just really rewarding to overcome that stuff and kind of take control of things. You can sit there and you can make excuses, or you can, and that's, it really sucks for somebody to say, "Oh, well, you're just making excuses." I'm the type of person who avoids conflict at all costs, because all I find out is it just causes more problems for me than if I stand up and do what's right or whatever else. I'm really just trying to avoid making it worse on me. So I will just kind of go out of my way to let people do what they want to do and say what they want to say and think what they want to think. Just because if I try to, say anything or have a discussion or whatever else, it just always blows up and causes problems. But at the same time, sometimes stuff has to be said, or things need to be done, or action needs to be taken, or something needs, you can't always just ignore everything and walk away because it makes life easier for you. And so I will always say, well, it's so-and-so's fault that I'm not here. It's their fault that I'm not doing this, or it's their fault that whatever else, which technically it's not. It's my fault for making the decision. But if I would always think, if it wouldn't be such a problem to speak to them, I would speak to them. If it wasn't so hard to do this, I'd do this. Or if it wouldn't create a bigger problem, then I'd go out and do this. And at the end of the day, it's kind of you can say that somebody else is a factor in something, or that the way that somebody is acting is a factor in your decision, but to blame them or say, what, it's their fault. If you wouldn't have done that, then I wouldn't have done this. Well, you're still in control of yourself. You're still ultimately have responsibility for what you're doing. And the way that I have kind of found a workaround for this is to put yourself in a position to limit the damage or limit the cost of when you ultimately do the right thing. Just because you should do something or need to do something and it might cost you a bunch right away, there's also a saying called, the biding your time. Is like, you don't have to jump to conclusions. You don't have to jump right on something. You don't have to throw something right back in somebody's face. You just need to be aware of the situation, what's going on, not try to continually drive yourself crazy with, well, God, this needs to change or whatever else. It's just like, okay, there is a problem. Dealing with this right now would be a pretty bad situation. So let's just kind of sit tight, let things play out, and we're going to see what happens. I've spent a lot of my time going really far out of my way to do things for people or help people out or whatever, and just kind of expect that they're going to reciprocate or give it back. And I've always found myself so frustrated when I try to do as much as I can for people, and then they don't, it doesn't, when I need something, all of a sudden they disappear, they're not there. Well, a lot of the times it's because, they never asked me to go above and beyond or do anything more than they asked me. It's one of those things that, if somebody asks for, asked for, I don't know, 2 eggs or something, and I gave them a dozen, and they weren't appreciative or didn't, I would complain later about, well, I did so much more and they didn't, they weren't appreciative or whatever else. Like, well, if somebody asks for a specific thing and you go out of your way to do all kinds of extra stuff, they didn't ask for that. That's not their problem. That's not what they wanted. So going above and beyond is one thing, but again, the whole, if somebody doesn't ask a question, they don't want an answer. I can feel like I'm educating the bowling world or doing so many good things or helping so many people out by getting on Facebook groups and Facebook forums and correcting people and whatever else. But if the bottom line is some people want to think a certain way or think something, and you just kind of drop in and correct them. They didn't ask you for your opinion or advice or whatever else, and they're just going to think you're an arrogant D-bag or something. So yeah, I like all the reality puns. That's, yeah. Oh, why doesn't Storm send you the 900 global balls? I have no idea. We've been trying to figure this out for months. No idea. And I'm not going to ask. That goes perfectly in line. I think that they don't want the Global has a lot of their own people, and I think that they don't want their own people kind of overshadowed. They want to give them a chance to still kind of do their thing and promote their own company. I'm not a Global staffer. I'm a Storm staffer. And so they want to give the Global staffers the opportunity to promote their own product and kind of grow from that side. And so I think that that's probably, they don't want the big Storm names kind of stepping in and stealing everybody's thunder. And so while I do think it'd be a great idea to help get the product out there and show more stuff and whatever else, I think they're trying to help their people out. So but yeah, I have no idea. They're not having trouble moving products, so they don't need me to put up a Zen review or anything to sell those things. So after years of listening, I bought a promotion last night. It's really spectacular. I freaking told you. I've told everybody about the promotion. I've got a bunch of them. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to shoot another big set on Thursday. We might actually stream this. I'm going to have to see if we can do this because Jonathan Hawes, my Rise and Grinds co-host, I'm actually bowling him head-to-head on Thursday in our league. We have a scratch league, and we bowl the person across from us, and we get team point. The whole night's worth 32 points. 4 points per bowler, so 1 point per game and another point for series, and then we have 4 points per game and then 4 points for team series, or 4 points for team game and then 4 points for team series. And so I am actually, Jonathan and I are both in the 3 spot, so we will be bowling direct, not just teams bowling each other. Jonathan and I will be bowling directly against each other. So I think that since I got my problem figured out, that I'm going to put up another pretty big set with the promotion on Thursday. Evan, I love this question. Evan, my guy that does the my bowling labs guy, he's the one that takes care. He's the one that designed the Panda Pack patch, and so he's the one that takes care of all that stuff. Once again, luke.bowlinglabs.com for your Panda Pack patches, benefiting Positive Tails KC and the heckin' urethane shirts and hoodies. I'm sure with it getting into spring and summer, these are not going to be so popular, but the shirts are great. Get a shirt. I always find the YouTube streams late. Sorry, man. Discord notifies you. There's a bot that does that. Oh, Igor, what's up? Finally got to join live again. How's it going? It's going pretty great. I can't. I am. Again, here going back to the topic at hand, I'm one of the biggest, most negative, complaining malcontents out there, and I'm pretty happy right now. But it's been kind of a different life, kind of a different viewpoint thing. So you all are so great. You help others on their questions. Also, I'm glad, Luke, that you can bowl because you help all of us. Appreciate it. That's what I'm here for. You think that most of the top-notch bowlers on the PBA were some of the best junior bowlers in their field? Yeah, at some point they were all, whether they were, and a lot of them, they didn't, there's such a big youth, I don't know what the word is, but there's so much going on for the youth right now that the kids are developing even faster because they have access to all these tournaments and bowling on tougher conditions and coaching and whatever else. And so high school bowling, collegiate bowling. And so by the time the kids hit the PBA, they're a whole lot more seasoned than they used to be. So yeah, I'm sure. What would you suggest to deal with the ignorance prevalent in some aspects of the sport? And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that bowling's a difficult sport to understand, number one. There's a whole bunch of things that are going on that you have to be able to see that you can't necessarily tell somebody else. It's not like you're looking at a green on a golf course and you can see the dips and the bends and the angle of the grass and the whatever else. You have to get it based on ball reaction. So you have to be able to see these things. You have to be able to understand what goes on. So there's a lot of personal experience that goes into understanding bowling to begin with. But I think that a big part of the ignorance is that it is a difficult sport to understand. A lot of it is personal experience. You just can't tell somebody a lot of this stuff. But people generally go with ignorance or excuses to make themselves feel better or combat negative feelings about their own skills or abilities. That's normally when people use excuses, is that they wish that they were better than they were. And so if they find a way to blame something else, it kind of alleviates a little of their frustration. And if they can convince themselves, oh, well, I hit the pocket and I left a 10 pin. And, if they can convince themselves it was bad luck, then, that makes them out to be, it's like, well, I'm good and I should have carried that. It just didn't carry. Even though they let go of the ball and just kind of lame duck spinning at the pocket, and I can see it's going to be a 10 pin. And they're, well, it's a pocket shot. Well, it might have been a really terrible pocket shot. So I think the ignorant, it's not necessarily, it's not a bowling thing, it's a people thing. And so that's kind of part of the reason for my topic today, is that it's, come on. This light's too bright, but I don't know what else to do. There we go. I had everyone muted. Makes sense now. That's great. Everyone, that's probably the best way to be. You know where I can get a promotion? Definitely not for me. I'm trying to hoard more of them. Twist ends installing Vice, Turbo, or Ultimate. What's your favorite? Oh, the interchangeable slugs. The Ultimate and the Turbo have the same problem of too much material, I think, because if the ball swells at all, then the slug gets stuck. Now, the Turbos and the Ultimates, the Turbo and the Ultimate are both quite a bit simpler. And so if anything goes wrong with them, super quick fixes. The Vice has a whole lot more moving parts. I think it might be a little bit more reliable, but if something does go wrong, and something will go wrong because it's a mechanical it's all of them are kind of mechanical things, and so something's going to go wrong at some point. Vices are a nightmare, an absolute freaking nightmare to fix, especially if something happens in the ball. If it happens with the corkscrew in the bottom of the ball, most of the time you have to drill that out. Unless you line it up perfectly, you have to drill that out, and then you have to plug the bottom of the hole and then re-drill the thing right back out. So it's woof. So naturally, I'm a turbo staffer, so I'm going to say the hit system. But most people I know prefer the not no I mean the switch grip, not the hit system. Turbo staffer, so I'm going to say the switch grip. Most people do prefer the switch grip, again, for the reasons that I said, and I'm sure that the Vice staffers don't really like the Vice system that much. They kind of have to use it because they're Vice, but the turbo system is so much easier to install, so much easier to install, so much easier to fix. The problem it does have is that if they were able to fix the kind of the swelling, there's too much material, and so if the ball swells at all, then and they have tools to help with that, but sometimes the tools don't do enough. So is it possible for a two-hander to use a pitch black as a spare ball too? Oh yeah, sure. Now, the fact that nobody on TV does it means it's impossible. No, it's just that the plastic ball goes straighter, and it doesn't pick up near as much. A urethane ball will pick up so much more oil in the heads and off the lane, period, than a plastic ball will. So I try my best to educate the bowlers in the league I run, even staying after to help fix some people's issues, but some just aren't ready to listen or understand. It can be frustrating. The problem is that one of the things that I found out is, again, if somebody doesn't ask a question, they don't want an answer. And a lot of the times there's people that that don't want to be pros, or most people want a quick fix to anything. And as soon as there's nothing more, the wife and I watch a lot of My 600 Pound Life, and just seeing the people that come in there, and a lot of the episodes recently have kind of been the same. Somebody, gets to 600 or 700 pounds, and then they go into the doctor, and his bedside manner is kind of rough. He's pretty blunt, and he's pretty in people's faces, and a lot of people don't like that. They want somebody to be nicer to them. But again, the harsh reality is that, if you weigh 700 pounds, you got to fix something now. You can't afford for somebody to sugarcoat it. You definitely don't want anybody sugarcoating anything. It's part of the problem, part of your problem. But what people want versus what they actually need. But it all kind of goes the same way, as people will find excuses, and he will call them on their excuses, and they'll say, well, you're a doctor, you should know better. It's like, well, I can't lose weight this fast, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And he kind of throws it back in their face, which, again, bedside manner is not great. But at the end of the day, most of the time people will eventually cave, and I think part of it, he makes them mad. And so they try to prove him wrong, and then they figure out, oh, well, you do know what you're talking about. You are right. And so sometimes people don't know what they don't know. That's part of it. Part of it is not everybody wants to be a pro. People think that it's a whole lot simpler than it actually is. That's one of the bigger problems. That people think it's simple, and it's just not. And part of the my lefty transition's gone really well so far, but it's based on years and years and years of being bad and throwing it bad. So I learned all kinds of things about the rest of it, which is helping me on the left side immensely. So that shouldn't be taken as any kind of watermark of how fast anybody should go. But that's kind of why I've left a lot of Facebook groups. I don't post much on Facebook forums, on Facebook groups. I'm not in any internet or online forums, because I'm just an easy target. There was one Facebook group that I was in, and I was I disagreed with some Bowling This Month ratings or something like that, and some guy just went off on me. He called me a princess and said I was an arrogant ass and whatever else, and he spent like the next week, not harassing me. That's kind of a ridiculous term to say, but everywhere I posted something, he would pop up and just be obnoxious. He was just being obnoxious, and so I left the group, I blocked him, and he was one of the big reasons that I just don't post much anymore anyway. I know if somebody wants help or wants advice or whatever else, they can come to me. They can seek me out. I don't need to go around. I don't have some kind of ego that requires me to go around and try to fix everybody's problems and solve everything and help them out. You know, if they want help with something, then they can come find me. They can come to my channel, and if they come and ask me a question, I tell them something they don't like, that's on them. But at least I'm not going out of my way to push myself on people because I need an ego boost or think I'm a hot shot or think I know everything or something. So I generally, and other people will, you know, say, well, why aren't you out there, or why aren't you doing this, or why aren't you doing that? It's like, well, they didn't ask me to. And well, you're just sitting around not doing something. It's like, well, it's because when I get up and do something, people get mad at me for it. This camera, I think it's a lighting thing. I still think it's a lighting thing. It's always a lighting thing with this camera. It's the brightness, it's the reflection. It really is the reflection. Can't move the shade down, whatever. Yeah, no, you could have easily lost 30 pounds this month. How y'all doing? Yeah, I love the guy. He's hilarious. But, and that's kind of what I mean, is that those people have, and there was another lady, we watched the Where Are They Now, and see people of how they're doing now, because they have the episode that's just like a year and a half or something. You don't really see the continuing journey or how they're doing. And there was this one lady that kept getting really upset about, well, I'm not a number, and you keep giving me a target on a scale, and that's not who I am, or that's not whatever else. And it's like, well, it's a goal. It has nothing to do with, you're not a number. It has nothing to do with you being a number. It has to do with, okay, well, if we're trying to get to a certain point for skin surgery or something like that, which is a big part of the kind of the continuing shows, to get rid of all the excess skin once they've lost all that weight, is like, well, if I just tell you, okay, you need to lose more weight, then the first question somebody's going to ask, oh, well, how much? It's like, well, if I tell you need to lose, 15 more pounds for skin surgery, well, I'm not a number. You can't just define me like that and whatever else. It's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with anything, and she ended up going and finding a different doctor to do her skin surgery and whatever else. And, if you try to, the reality is that she's, she was still pretty heavy, and she still had some problems that would have not made the skin surgery go very good, or would have made it a lot less successful. There was still a lot more body in that skin that she needed to lose. And so she tried to kind of create her own reality or go somewhere else just because she didn't like seeing the number on the scale or whatever else. It's like, well, I mean, sorry you don't like that, but the reality is this, and you need to save your life or to get better or to accomplish what you want to accomplish, you have to live in this reality. You have to be brutally honest. That's why I think I'm such a negative person, is I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be somebody that just kind of sits around and wallows in my own self-pity and just wants to be angry and mad. I want to focus on, okay, where are the negatives? Where are the problems? If I eliminate those, then I am left with nothing but positives. I'm not going to be one of these, positive people who always sees the glass half full and whatever else, because those kind of people tend to create their own, they create their own reality and kind of go, well, everything's sunshine and and rainbows, and I'm just going to kind of ignore this negative stuff because I want a positive mindset. But they're the people that are most often kind of the quickest triggers and the most taken aback when something negative does happen to them. And they, well, I know I'm not listening, I'm not going to pay attention, whatever else. Well, you do have to pay attention to that stuff. And if you handle it, if you look at it realistically and you eliminate the negative stuff, then you don't have to try to be positive. You don't have to try to stay upbeat. You're just naturally going to be happy and upbeat because there are no problems to ignore or to worry about or to try to pretend like they aren't there. So yeah, Josh, their lives are on a timer, so it's hard to not use a number. And somebody's going to look at me, oh, you're skinny, what do you know about doing it? Well, everybody has their own set of challenges. I used to be I'm a sugar addict, hardcore. And I used to have basically I kind of overloaded my liver, and I started to get a rash pretty well everywhere. And there was 6 weeks when I was a teenager that I couldn't leave the house because it was literally all over me. It was just, I was just one big, and it was worse than like eczema or psoriasis or something like that, because it would kind of ooze. And so just think of me as some Ghostbusters monster or whatever else that would, oh, maybe not Ghostbusters, but something else on some horror movie. It wasn't pretty. But you know, everybody always has their own set of challenges, and I could have either gotten mad or whatever else. And it was kind of interesting to figure out what the problem was. But once I got it figured out, and I can whine or get upset or whatever else. But the bottom line is I just need to limit my sugar intake, or just eat the amount of sugar that a normal person eats, or just not eat it at all, even though I really, really want it. So there's no difference between, you know, that or somebody else gaining weight from eating sugary stuff. I had a different reaction to it. But at the end of the day, you got to pony up. You got to figure it out. You got to be honest with yourself, and you got to fix the problems. And if you're not honest about it, if you try to create your own truth or kind of dodge everything, and even if people kind of, once again, even if people kind of unfairly, even if people are unfair, even if people do have even if you are kind of forced into or feel forced into making a certain choice because you're like, well, I'd really like to do this, but if I do this, then it's going to create too many problems, or it's going to create a bigger problem than if I just make my own choice. And this is something that my wife's told me several times, is that like, well, they didn't make you do anything. And I'm like, well, but if I'd have done this, then they'd have done this, or this would have caused this problem, or to burn this bridge or whatever else. And she's like, well, so you're just taking the path of least resistance. And I'm like, well, no, sometimes I do. Sometimes I just like, you know, it's not worth the headache. And I'll come back around and complain about it later. And she's like, why didn't you just deal with it? And I'm like, well, it would have caused a bigger problem than what it was worth. So she's like, so you're going to make this choice and you're just going to be mad about it. I'm like, yes, because it would have caused a bigger problem. I would have been even madder about that. She's like, but you know, if you make a certain choice, then I mean, ultimately it comes back on you of making that certain choice. And there's a lot of people that knew that if they made a certain choice that their life would suck and it would be harder, but they were able to accomplish so much for other people, or you know, it eventually accomplished so much for themselves, even though it was really hard to slog through at the time. So but at the end of the day, you're the only one that makes your own choices. They can be heavily influenced. Other people can be, other situations or other people can be factors, but you know, at the end of the day, it's your choice. And if it's bad enough, or if you think that something needs to happen, or if it's just the right thing to do, no matter what it costs you, you got to pony up. That's just it. And I think that that's why I'm in such a good place right now after being such a negative person for almost 40 years. Saying finally, Realizing my connection's unstable again. Oh, reconnected. Sweet. So it's one of those things I've started to take more control, and even though there's control, and even though there's some things that hurt a little bit more, a little turning out a lot better. And so it's one of those things where just like people trying to lose the weight, and it's, I have this going on and I'm doing this, and he calls and he said, what do you, and you know, there, but he doesn't understand whatever else. It's like, well, it's not really up to him to understand. He's trying to save your life, and no matter what's going on or what's up, you just have to buckle down and get this done, no matter how hard it is or whatever else. And eventually most of the people do buckle down, and they end up finding, you know, it was really hard, but now it's worth it. I didn't know that I could do this. And a lot of people don't know that they're capable of doing something until they actually just, you know what, screw this, I'm just going to do it. So let's see. Answer a couple questions. Thanks. Love how you say what you think. Yeah. I mean, there's, if I lie to people and they get stuff that sucks, they're not going to be happy. So again, it's easier, just like what we're talking about. It's a lot easier to just tell people the truth than to deal with it later. So. Did Angel drill up and do a review on a promotion tour? No, but we have 4 of them, and that's on my short list. There's a few others. I think the phase tour is going to get holes in it pretty soon, and that's going to hurt because I could sell that for $500 right now. That one's going to hurt, but we're not doing the, if we buy something, we're going to drill it. There's no point in letting something sit around on a shelf just to look at it and say, oh, that's pretty, and I have that. If you're going to just, it can either sit on a shelf or you can actually use it. So why can't they just make general release or make it like more globally released? It's actually a thing, mostly in Japan, Korea. It's, you know, considered kind of disrespectful to see somebody else doing well with something and then go buy one of the same ball. It's disrespectful, or and so that's why they do so many different balls internationally. Chad McLean, Storm's technical director, has said that they release a ball like once every 1 or 2 weeks over there, and they do them in smaller batches. That's why they end up being pretty popular here. But if they release more balls overseas, then there's more diversity of choices and of ball selection over there. And that's just, they like new stuff, and they don't want to be seen as disrespectful for, you know, copying somebody else. So that's just kind of what the market is. What's the process to sign up for a major tournament? It's actually not as hard as you think it is. I did the US Open a couple years ago when it was in Wichita in 2018. And it was pretty simple, actually. You go onto the website and you go to tournament registration or whatever under the event page, and it kind of walks you through everything. So it's not really that tough. And the same thing on PBA.com. I think you can just kind of register, you sign up, get your PBA card, and register for stuff online. It is a little bit more complicated than signing up for a regular local tournament, but it's not too difficult. The process was pretty quick and easy. I'd never done it before, and I signed up for it pretty quick. So, how'd you feel if you saw someone at a tournament with a Storm jersey, mostly Storm stuff, but also have and throw another brand like Brunswick? I tried a Brunswick Knockout, and I love it. The Knockout's really good. So something like the Jab SE, that's really good too. There's a lot of other companies' stuff that's pretty good. And saying, oh, well, they have, their stuff is good, but our stuff is better. Well, I think Storm stuff does speak for itself, but that's why so many people throw it and so many people love it. The marketing's great, so everything's kind of exciting and fresh, and the colors are nice, and All the marketing's pretty good on it, but our stuff's pretty good too. And, you know, a lot of pros win with the stuff, and a lot of people that have no staff ties or connections at all, they don't get paid to use the stuff, they use it like it. So, but there's good stuff. I mean, Hammer's been really popular with the Black Widows. I had a taboo. I had most of the taboos, actually. I really like all of those. That gas mask core or something else. Obviously, something like the Venom Shock that's been around forever from Motive is really good. So, I mean, if companies didn't make good stuff, they wouldn't be in business. So, I don't really begrudge somebody using something else, especially if it works. So, obviously, I want to promote the Storm stuff, and I would hope that most people throw Storm stuff because it helps me out. But if somebody's throwing something else and they're scoring with it, and they're having fun bowling, and that helps all the companies. The more people that I didn't, you know, if somebody's bowling with Brunswick or Motive or Big Bowling or even California bowling stuff, if they're bowling and having fun and they're getting other people into bowling, those other people might throw Storm. So it's just about getting people involved in bowling at this point. So if you had more pigments, it could focus on you instead of the ghost talking into the camera. Exactly. You know, my nickname is actually Casper. My nickname is actually Casper, and yes, that's what I think, is that I've got a white wall behind me that's actually darker than I am, and so the camera can't find me, so it doesn't know what to focus on. So I think if I just, again, like I said, if I hold the cup up here or something that has a little bit of pigment for the camera to focus on, it might be really helpful. Oh my God, see, it's gone again. It's gone again. I put the camera down and it can't find me. You know, it can find the cup, but it can't find the me. Oh my God, there we go. If I can get it focused on something else and try not to move, then at least it'll just generally be focused in this direction. Oh my God. And like I said, why I have an outside job, I have no idea. It's a pretty good week this week. It's kind of more relaxing. We're out in a better part of the state. It's kind of quieter as far as traffic goes, and there's not a whole lot of water. It's not very humid, so that makes everything pretty easy. So it's just walk around in the sunshine. I have. Can everybody still see me? There we go. Now we're back. Serenity now. Serenity now. Insanity later. Reminds me of a guy I play games with. He always takes accountability, even if it isn't his fault, and it helps him improve a lot, beats himself up a lot too. And that's my thing, is I can be a little too critical. That's my way of being positive. If I kind of, come on. Negativity and kind of yelling at myself is my way of being positive. It's my way to kind of focus myself, and because I can get a little too relaxed sometimes. I'm pretty hyper. My brain works really quickly, and sometimes I can't slow down enough and focus. And you know, if I just kind of am out there and let the hamsters run, then I get myself into trouble. And yelling at me kind of refocuses me and gets me back on track. And so if I am negative within, people say, well, you can't be negative with yourself. You have to positively reinforce. It's like, that doesn't work, because that just covers up the problems. For me, if I get upset at myself, that's what focuses me. So that if I focus myself and I start getting positive results, then that makes me positive. I don't have to try to be positive or fake happiness. If I strike the next 5 or 6 times, that makes me very happy. So if I yell at myself and I get myself to focus, that gives me positive results, which makes me positive. It's funny how that works. So I do beat myself up a lot, but that's that's just my way of getting to the positivity. Yeah, what I get irritated about is people rather listen to the wannabe house pro that averages 190 with 8 balls on a house shot. Yeah, that's always the thing, is that when I was working in the pro shop and I would tell people, okay, well, this should do this or this ball or whatever else, so they'd come back in and, well, I had a question about this layout because my buddy said that it's not really good for my type of bowling or whatever else, and come to find out it's like a 175 average bowler that bowls once a week and has been a career lifetime 175. I'm like, okay, well, I'm the pro shop guy. So aside from that, I average 220, 230, which on a house shot may or may not mean much. And just because somebody's in the pro shop and they, can knock pins down doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're talking about. And that's the other, there's a lot of pro bowlers that have no clue about layouts, ball tech, and would be terrible coaches, but well, they're a pro, so they must be good at this. It's like, no, no, they may be really good at bowling, but really awful at everything else. I know that Pete Weber's kind of famously ignorant of ball tech or whatever, and I don't think he wants to know. He just, you know what, I want the ball to react like this. Give me a ball that reacts like this, and I'm going to go knock pins down. And that's his way of keeping everything simple. So if you ask Pete Weber about layouts or ball tech or ball formulas or the cores or whatever, it's like, I don't care. I just know that this ball reacts like this. That's all I need to know. I'm going to go knock pins down. So, and that was the thing that would always get me. It's like, well, this is the way. Why? And you don't want to tell people, oh, well, your friend doesn't know what they're talking about. You kind of ask questions, say, okay, well, why do you think? Well, my friend thinks this. I was like, well, why do they think this? And whatever. Getting back to this Kratos, he doesn't know that I'm streaming. Anyhow, my wife isn't even watching my stream, dagnabbit. Tisk, tisk, tisk. What? Yeah, okay. So she must not. She must have at everyone disabled too. So. Oh yes, I used Kratos. Going back to it, I used to be addicted to sugar as well. Oh yeah, bad. I mean, you want to talk about some of the most amazing stuff that I would make. I would take Jello. I would make my own like mousse and smoothies and whatever. Like I'd get Jello and I actually used to. People don't remember Tang, the orange kind of. This was Tang was Gatorade before there was Gatorade. And when it comes in the powder and you kind of mix it up yourself, I would eat the powder with a spoon. Little Debbie is my best friend. I love Tiger Cakes. Tiger Cakes are the best. Twinkies are really good. My mom used to make this thing called lemon trifle that was basically lemon pudding, lemon cake, and Twinkie frosting. And that was that's like the most amazing thing you've ever had. But yeah, I'm telling you what, sugar, sour worms, like Sour Patch Kid stuff, holy heck. Yep. Recently stopped eating candy, which was a big factor for me. It's rendered me disabled and jobless at the moment. It's put me in the hospital. That's terrible. Yeah. You're paying on a whole nother level. I was addicted to sugar. It was how I cope with my condition, but the reality was it was just making it worse. Yeah, it's one of those things where it kind of chases its tail. because you just want to. And the cravings are so bad that it's kind of like, you know what, if I just eat a little bit, then the craving will go away and I'll be okay. But you eat a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, holy crap, I want so much more than this. You just keep eating more. It's one of those things where it's the thing that's causing your problem that you're eating more of to kind of cope with. So yeah, I mean, like I said, rashes, and they were, like I said, they were ever. I couldn't go out in public for 6 weeks. Care of. And they would, like I said, they would itch, they would ooze, they would whatever. I had to wear these crappy little throwaway like robes or whatever. Otherwise, I would get this stuff all over my clothes, and it didn't wash out very easily. And so, being out on the road is kind of tough because we don't. Sometimes out here in Western Kansas, especially, there's not very many places to eat. And my traveling partner is actually vegan, so it's kind of hard for him to find stuff to eat anyway. But a lot of these little cafes and grills, bar and grills, and places like this are places I'll eat anything, but I don't even want to eat there because it's just disgusting. And so what we do is we don't eat lunch. So what we'll do when we're out is generally we stop at Casey's general stores are pretty popular here, or just a gas station or whatever else. But we'll stop in and I'll grab some almonds and whatever else. But I always look at I haven't had soda or pop or whatever you want to call it for years. So I drink sparkling water, and if especially because you kind of like it. And I really like this dandelion white, like I am. But it's tea. It's an herb tea, but it has vanilla in it. It's not by itself very sweet, but I use stevia to sweeten stuff with, and so that kind of gives me my sweet kick. And so this kind of tastes like sweet vanilla tea, even though it doesn't have any sugar in it. Something else is there's a lot of stuff here recently too that has more stevia in it. But when you walk into a gas station, you don't find anything that's healthy whatsoever. But I've gotten the self-control enough to kind of walk by all that stuff. And if I do, I can get like blueberry almonds that I like. They're kind of blueberry dusted, and they don't have a whole lot of sugar in them, but they do kind of give me that little sweet taste that I like. But I've just gotten over it to where it's like, you know what, having the rash freaking sucks, especially when it spreads or it's everywhere and I get hot, and then it's just awful. And I would rather just not eat the stuff than feel awful. So I've gotten that somewhat under control to the point where I can have something every once in a while, but generally speaking, I don't really want it that much. Or like if I get ice cream now, I'll have a couple of spoonfuls, and I'll be like, okay, that's enough. Because I just don't want to feel awful. And at some certain point, even if you don't want to feel awful, sometimes it's hard to say no. But at some certain point, you just have to do it, no matter how bad it feels, no matter how much it sucks. You just have to understand the reality and say, okay, well, you have to do it. It's just that. So which of the new is closest to the ink? Neither one. They're just not close. The ink is a whole lot cleaner, and the closest thing to the ink is actually a mirror shined IQ Tour Solid. So there's that. I'm building a 3-bag, and I'm an average rev guy, and bowl a lot of house league and a decent amount of tournaments. So I was thinking about getting the ProMotion, the Omega Crux. Those are just, you're going to have a hard time finding those. The camera is racist. It's one of those things like some black people are for the facial recognition thing to like tag them in a Facebook picture. Like it'll like put a box around everybody to select friends you want to tag. Somebody's too dark for it to find them. I have the opposite problem. I'm way too light for my camera to find me against the white backdrop and the white pillowcases, and it can't even find anything because I'm white and this is bright. My eyes are bright. Oh well. I heard Biden outlawed ghosts or something like that transparently because I like to say that I'm fluorescent. It's funny when I go to whenever I've had blood. All right, trying to reconnect. All right, we're back again. I've been at home taking care of my dad and delivering his bowling silver mix. So, some of the things I heard people say are just flat out ignorant, so I hold my tongue and don't say anything because it's not worth it. That's why I've left a lot of Facebook, internet forums, or anything like that, because especially I'm an easy target now because a lot of this specific thing that we're talking about, so I'm able to speak on it, but that's what a lot of the answer to the question, so I'm answering the question, and people feel threatened by that for some reason. So they don't want the real answer, they want the truth, they want the answer that they want everybody to agree with them, and that's not the way that it works. Did this topic start from 600-pound? A part of the intro to the 600-pound life, where are they now? Or somebody says it's time for me to start living. The truth is that you have a problem and you need to lose the weight, and it's not. They recently banned the word obese on Twitch. I can understand not fashion or not. Everybody has their problems. Again, they don't need you pointing everything out to them. Somebody can look in a mirror and see what their problems are. One of my. But I mean, realistically speaking, nothing. Your truth or my truth has nothing to do with reality. And once you accept reality, you don't, just because somebody else points out reality, you add about that. That's on you, not on them. But you also don't need other people going out of their way to tell you what you already know. But if you've got a problem and you go to seek help for it and they just spit the fact, connection's unstable, hotel Wi-Fi. There's actually an Ethernet plug-in in here that doesn't work. If you didn't hear that, there's an Ethernet plug-in in my hotel room that doesn't work. This stuff teases me all the time because I'll think, oh, okay, sweet, I can hardwire this thing, and then it doesn't work. I don't understand what the point of actually having everything wired up if it doesn't work. So, I mean, it's frustrating when people go out of their way to tell you what you already know. But at the same time, if you have a problem that you're not dealing with it and they point it out, it's not their fault for telling you the truth. It's like, sorry. Please tell me he did the impression. You kids have easily lost 30 pounds this month. How y'all doing? I don't really think she's taking this seriously. I feel like Luke's attacking me. Is it? Yes. I'm on hotel Wi-Fi and it constantly tells me my connection's unstable. So I've been on here for like an hour and 20 and I have Harry Potter to watch. So I have the promotion. I love it. So controllable. Happy I got it when I did. Yeah, hotel Wi-Fi. It's not good. The graphics in here are well. You don't need to see my face really that well anyway. So guessing all the sites are sold at a 15-pound promotion now. Probably. Try wearing a ball cap when you stream. That's not a half bad idea. Or I could just wear a mask. Period. So I do look weird in a. It's one of those things where I don't think I'd look weird in a hat, and then I look really, really weird in a hat. I look weird without a hat, and the hat just makes it worse. I don't get why we try. Okay, I can talk about this now because I've reconnected. Too many other people are watching Harry Potter, right? It froze. It's gone. No? It recycled? Oh, okay. My connection froze. That was bad. Yeah. Please wait while we try reconnecting. Too many other people are watching Harry Potter on their laptops right now. Okay. If this Wi-Fi thing will hang on just long for me to finish up what I'm talking about. I'll read this again. I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 16. Yes. This is one of those things that you could complain about because, number one, it's a challenge that you have to deal with that most existence morality. Just like I was talking earlier about my skin rash thing, I don't have diabetes, but if I eat too much sugar, it starts showing up. I start getting these oozing sores and rashes everywhere. I couldn't leave the house for 6 months because of it. So just because unstable connection. Has a suggestion. Personal hotspot. And if so I'm almost done with anyway, so hopefully the Wi-Fi can hang just a second. I just got afflicted with my local come off sounding like a donkey. Yeah, that's the thing, is that it sounds like you're trying to be a know-it-all. It's like, well, no, I'm trying to offer my knowledge. No, but I guess I mean, if you don't want any help, yeah. Few times when I'm upset about something. Most of the time, the vast majority of it's legitimate claim. Don't complain very often. He's driving by a 9. A lot of them will kind of throw their hands up and get mad or whatever. Most of the time, I'll know it's deserved. There's sometimes where I will know it's like, oh God, I came up the back of that one. It's too straight off the end of the pattern. I completely deserve that. So, I guess with your connect. Okay. Apparently my connection's terrible, so I've been rambling about this long enough. So hopefully this doesn't look too bad on playback. I'm going to go ahead and shut it off for now because the Wi-Fi sucks. So sorry about the connection. I will use my personal hotspot on my phone next time. I might stream some of that. Talk about a protein bar for dessert. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope that I didn't trigger or upset anybody, and if I did, it's my channel. I can talk about what I want to talk about. So thanks everybody. We'll talk to you probably on Thursday or Friday. So the truth, not your truth. It'll help you out.